She was 67, of royal blood, and once called the saintliest woman in Christendom. But when she died, it took 11 savage blows to end her life. Not justice, vengeance. This is Margaret Pole's story. No cheering crowd, no royal fanfare. Just silence, a rusty axe, and a terrified young executioner. Her execution would become one of the most humiliating in English history, and one of the most forgotten. But behind that silence, a king's paranoia, a son's defiance, and a woman who refused to kneel before tyranny. And it all ends in one of the most gruesome botched beheadings ever recorded. Margaret Pole was born into royalty, daughter of George, Duke of Clarence, brother to Edward IV and Richard III, a Plantagenet by blood, cousin to kings, and enemy to one dangerous man, Henry VIII. She grew up in luxury, became godmother to Princess Mary, and served Queen Catherine of Aragon. But her world collapsed when Henry turned against the Pope, and her son turned against Henry. Her son, Reginald Pole, a Catholic cardinal, publicly condemned the king's divorce and religious reforms. And when a Pole defies the Tudors, everyone in the family pays the price. By 1538, Margaret was arrested. No trial, no confession, just suspicion and politics. Her Plantagenet blood made her a threat. Henry saw her as a symbol of rebellion waiting to happen. For 2 years, Margaret rotted in the Tower of London. 67 years old, cold, isolated, and never told when she would die. Her title stripped, her name erased, her fate sealed by whispers. She was accused of treason, based on a forged letter and nothing more. Her real crime? Loyalty to her faith and giving birth to a son who dared question the crown. There was no public outcry, no noble protests. Henry ruled through fear, and no one challenged him. Not when he'd already executed a queen and torn down a religion. Then, one morning in May 1541, the guards came. She was told she would die today. No formal ceremony, no scaffold, just a quiet courtyard, a wooden block, and an executioner far too young. Margaret was led into a quiet yard within the tower. There was no crowd. Henry couldn't afford a spectacle. After all, she was a no traitor, and he knew it. But fear demanded blood. She refused to lie flat. "So should traitors do," she reportedly said, "and I am none." A final act of defiance, she knelt upright, head held high, and the axe was raised. It struck her shoulder instead of her neck. She screamed. The executioner, just a young boy, panicked. He tried again, and again, and again. Witnesses say it took 11 blows to kill her. Not a swift death, not a queen's dignity, but a public butchering. Bone, sinew, flesh hacked in desperation. A royal matriarch reduced to a pile of torn robes and shattered bone. She wasn't just killed, she was slaughtered. Most nobles, Anne Boleyn included, were given clean, practiced deaths. Margaret was treated like a criminal, executed in secret and butchered by mistake. Henry VIII didn't care. He had silenced a symbol of resistance. Her death was a warning, but it was also an embarrassment. Even the king's chroniclers admit 11 strokes were needed to end her life. And yet, Margaret never begged. She never confessed. She faced death with the pride of a woman who knew history would remember her, not as a traitor, but as a martyr. It was the most humiliating execution of the 16th century, not because of her guilt, but because she had none. It wasn't justice. It was paranoia wrapped in blood-stained velvet. Margaret was buried in an unmarked grave, forgotten by the crown, remembered by the church. Centuries later, Pope Leo XIII beatified her. A martyr, not a monster. A victim, not a villain. And the rhyme she scratched into her cell wall before death? For traitors on the block should die. I am no traitor, no, not I. Her final words echoed louder than any trial. History tried to forget her, but her story remains a brutal reminder. Even the highest born can fall. And when power is absolute, no one is safe, not even a countess with royal blood. So the next time you hear about Henry VIII's tyranny, remember the woman who defied him not with weapons, but with silence, dignity, and defiance. Her head may have rolled, but her legacy stood. The most humiliating execution of the 16th century wasn't just a mistake. It was a message. And now you've heard it.